724. Awake with Jake. 591-8900 is the phone number. It's a Saturday morning. Get up. The last Saturday in the year 2012. What are you going to do after today? Well, tomorrow. You have tomorrow, and that'll be the last Sunday. I was just talking about this report before the break about this officer. There's one section here where he talks about the Mr. Johnson who had the arm dangling with the tendon and the bone and all that stuff. When the paramedics arrived on the scene, as he called it, to provide their professional medical services, he said, "I was shocked, stunned, and speechless to find that Mr. Johnson refused any medical treatment or even any medical advice from JFRD. After being repudiated, the puzzled paramedics packed up the paraphernalia, and after admonishing Mr. and Mrs. Johnson on the potential infection in the wound, they proceeded to part ways with the patient." A little P alliteration going on there. Really kind of funny. Anyway, somebody texted before. They want to know about the fiscal cliff, and it was actually it was actually called August 11 was called the Budget Control Act, because I've said that it was voted on by both Democrats and Republicans, and the vote. So it was roughly. 95 Democrats were in the House, 95 Democrats for it, 95 against, and the Republicans 174 for, 66 against, so it passed in the House. The Senate was like 76 to 24, with 28 Republicans yes, 19 no, 45 Democrats yes, and only 6 said no. Then the president signed it. And then they're all upset that what they signed and put into law is going to take place. And they're playing a game of chicken to see who's going to blink first. And they should be blinking like crazy. And then they point fingers at each other like, well, the other side's got to do this. You know what? They voted for this. What did they expect was going to happen? And they've been talking about this for the past year. And every time I hear, they did this, made it so bad that they figured nobody would let this go into effect. Well, they are. There's consequences of actions. And again, the government just keeps spending money. They just spend on everything. You remember earlier in the year we talked about the GSA and the trip to Vegas, the $1 million plus. And it wasn't just the actual little conference they had eventually. It was the 6 or 7 trips they had to make, the fact-finding trips to Vegas before that year, that just piled up a bunch of dough. Government has no control. And local governments are going broke. And local governments rely upon the feds. What was the number I heard in Illinois? That if the fiscal cliff happens, Illinois is going to be another $1 billion in debt? Not put it on the tab. And again, it all comes back to we all spend. We all want to spend money. Nobody has a problem with Big Bird getting $450 million. None. We would rather let prisoners out of jail because we can't afford it than take any of Big Bird's sacred money away. That just shows you how crazy things are in Washington. That just shows you how crazy things are. And in Oregon, where they're having this problem with the prisoners, 25% of people who get arrested, who should be prosecuted, their cases don't even make it to court because the prosecutors don't have enough money to do that. And the ones that do make it to court and they sentenced to jail, they let them out right away because they have no room for them. And they can't afford to keep them. You could make any of this stuff up. But yet, Big Bird is fine. Big Bird gets every dime of his $450 million, even though the Sesame Street Workshop people, the nonprofit, brings in a ton of dough. Go look up they do a public filing. They have to because they're a nonprofit. Go look up their public filing. Look at the money that they bring in from different revenue streams, and look at the money they pay out in salaries and stuff, and little perks and little deals, and you go nuts. That rather than stop some of that, we have to give the $450 million for Big Bird. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll know on Monday if there's a deal or not. And John Cass and I will tell you about it at 9:00 Monday morning. But it's just ludicrous. Every time I see these stories and I see these politicians, and it's like, you guys are idiots. You put us here, and now you don't know how to get us out of this. And this is why government is not your friend at times. Anyway, Les Gold, Hardcore Porn, coming up next right here on 89 WLN.